record. Okay. Let's see who. Okay, people joined, didn't join. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Oh, I see people are on, but they're not popping up, like neither video. Okay, fine. So I can see that people are joining now. Okay. So I guess we'll start. All right. Hi everyone. So I had initially posted that I was going to like post a summary of sorts of the final points that we did not cover last time, and that was primarily why are Yoav and Adoniyahu, as soon as they're in mortal danger, they make a dash for the altar, right? It says with both of them that they grabbed onto the horns of the altar for sanctuary, for for asylum. So basically, there we had a bunch of questions. Just gonna dig it up. Right. Okay. So there are a few questions that kind of like spun off from that as well, about that when David in his will, his verbal will to Shlomo, when he says to him, okay, these are my like dying wishes, off these people, like I don't care, hire a hitman, find some kind of convoluted way, make sure nobody can trace their like execution back to you. And it's like, really, that's really your last will and testament? This is like what you're saying to your son? You guys had like a whole bunch of questions on those points. So before I dive in, I just want to explain that Baruch Hashem, this week we had my son's birth. So it was just crazy, preoccupying, thank God. So I did not get to the summary like I had planned, because it was just a question of like running around taking care of things. So I decided that even anyway, in retrospect, it makes perfect sense to talk about it now, to wrap it up very, very briefly, because it's inherently connected to chapter 3. I mean, the whole division into chapters is so confusing and frustrating, because it literally just destroys our ability to understand the text. The literary units are literary units. And, when Gutenberg came along in 1450 and asked, the monks to like butcher the text so that it could be printer friendly, it butchered the text and it made, just basic reading comprehension very, very difficult. So we're looking, oh, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and our sages are like, what? No, that's one unit. That's literally one like organic unit that sets the stage for all of Shlomo's career. So it's important to like zoom out and realize, no, the division into chapters is an artificially imposed division. It's a very late division. It's very modern. Like, you realize that anybody from before the Shulchan Aruch and the Arizal never heard of the division of chapters. Rambam, Rashi, all the sages of Talmud, like literally, they never heard of Bereshit, chapter 38, or Shmuel Aleph and Bet. Those things didn't exist. That's only from 1450 on, right, when Gutenberg decided that the first book that he's going to print is the international universal bestseller, the Old Testament, aka Hai, the Tanakh. So basically, we need to wrap it up. So I figured, like, okay, wrap it up super quick, and then it segues perfectly into our unit today. Okay, so basically, the questions that we had is, here we go. Right. Okay, so one was, why did they grab the Mizbeach? Why doesn't Shlomo just kill them on the spot, like Adoniyahu, Yoav? You could easily just execute them for treason, right? Because they're leading a rebellion against him and rejecting his monarchy. And so he doesn't need excuses. He doesn't need anything. Like, why didn't he just kill them? And David also. David had a chance to kill Yoav in his lifetime. He had a chance to kill Shimi ben Gera. Like, why didn't he do it? Why is he leaving it to Shlomo? And not only that, he's telling Shlomo, but make sure you don't do it in a direct fashion. make sure you do it in a very roundabout, convoluted way that it can be traced back to you. So this connects very directly to the continuation of our stories, which actually is perplexing. Like, what do you mean? What is the whole dream in Givon and the two prostitutes? What does that have to do with Yoav and Adoniah? So we'll get to that in a sec. 1 second. By the way, I wanted to say thanks to everybody who sent in their questions. Just one request. Usually, and you guys know this from my note days, I always use the questions in order to write the class, to write the lecture. Like, I don't like to superficially impose the questions. I like to hear what bothered you and then look up the sources that come to answer the questions that you guys asked. So if it's possible, I understand everybody's got lives, everybody's mega busy, I get it, trust me, I get it. But I'm just throwing it out there, if it's possible to send it even a day in advance, it helps me tremendously. Mamish tremendously, because it just gives me that extra day to like look up sources and say, okay, you know, so-and-so had this question, okay, I'll like look it up here. Okay, but really, the cool thing was that a lot of you asked the same questions. You guys zeroed in on like the same, you know, key issues. And so, yeah, we're going to be covering like all the major issues that you guys all brought up. Okay, so first of all, one of the important things to remember about these first 3 chapters is that they all have one purpose, and that is to set the stage for us to have a clue what is the foundation that Solomon's entire reign is going to be sitting upon. Like, how is he establishing, how is he setting the stage for his entire monarchy? So that's also the sages had answered, well, why is the story with David there bichlal? It doesn't belong here. It's like, it's a David story. Why is it here? So again, because it's part of a crucial description of how did Solomon begin his reign? Like, what is the backdrop? What is, like, you know, the entire setting that his entire play is going to play itself out on top of? So basically, everything that is told in these chapters is to give us another angle as to what is going to inform Solomon's entire reign. So for example, Sarah Plutkin actually wrote in and she was like, whoa, like, is all of this like major foreshadowing? Yes, absolutely. And we'll go into it really like, you know, distinctly here about all the different ways that these first 3 chapters are foreshadowing his career in general, monarchy in some ways in general, the Davidic dynasty, but specifically his career, because he had a specific role. Okay, so now diving into the answers. So why did Adoniyahu and Yoav run to the Mizbeach, to the altar, in order like to somehow gain asylum, whether it's political asylum or whatever? Why do they think that was going to save them? And Rashi even brings up, if I'm not mistaken, that Adoniyahu wanted to die there. Like, he didn't even think he was going to be saved. He didn't actually think that Shlomo was going to keep him alive. I was going to execute him there. Well, so what do you gain there? Like, what do you care if he kills you by the altar, he kills you in a field like, you know, 5 meters away? Like, what does it make a difference? You're dead anyway. So there is a humongous difference. And basically, if you grab onto the altar, then you need to be tried. And basically, the reason that he wanted, or Yoav and Adoniyahu both wanted to be tried, is because there's a huge difference if you are executed as a traitor or as a criminal. Meaning, if you are found guilty of some kind of crime that is not treason, then the major difference, and according to the sages, this is what they were both trying to get out of it, and specifically Yoav, is that a person who is executed for treason, so as further disincentive for anyone to ever consider leading a rebellion, a coup against the monarch, and, you know, rebelling in any way, so basically, any property belonging to someone who's executed for treason immediately becomes the king's property. The children, the spouse, all of the family, all the inheritance disappears and becomes property of the king. So that's land, that's literally anything. And so Yoav clung to the Mizbeach because he wanted to have a trial in order to prove that it wasn't treason, and that we'd be able to hold on to his property, his entire inheritance that he wanted to leave his offspring. because he did not want to be executed as a traitor. Again, I'm really, really giving you the Twitter version because the whole concept of the altar and the parallel that exists between that and the city of refuge. If you guys remember the story about if a person commits manslaughter, right, as mentioned in Parashat Mishpatim, and also more specifically in Bamidbar, where it talks about the Ir Miklat. So the city of refuge, if a person, right, kills someone by accident, they can flee to the city of refuge. A mizbech definitely has that kind of status. So that's another angle of what they're trying to do, but it's a whole halacha, and it's like just way too complex to go into it, especially since we're trying to like cover so many topics. But the most important point that answers most of your questions was the fact that they were both trying to get out of being executed as traitors so that they could hold on to and leave their property to their offspring instead of having Shlomo, to suck it up and become part of his property. Okay, so now what is the deal? So why doesn't Shlomo execute Adoniyahu? That's a tricky question because I think there's multiple angles to it, and I don't want to go into it right now. I'll see, maybe like if I go into it like a different time, I'll summarize it. But one thing I want to see that from the K-drama, yes, I'm going to bring it up again, we see that the relationship between the brothers, especially if they have an emotional relationship, it's not so simple. Like anyone who saw the entire drama saw that there's this emotional tug of war between the heir to the throne prince versus the son of the concubine prince. That it wasn't just like, okay, you threatened me, therefore I hate you. They didn't erase their childhood playing together or whatever affection they had just because of this one incident. And so it makes sense just on that level alone that Shlomo was not going to be trigger happy and just try to kill Adoniyahu. With Yoav, it's a little more complicated, but what I wanted to say was the real clincher for understanding the whole thing is David's will. David tells him, no matter what, don't execute them, don't just like go straight up, make sure they don't live. Now, why? Why is he telling him make sure they don't live? Anyone? Why is David telling the Shlomo, make sure you execute these two people, Yoav and Shimi? So primarily because those are two people that very significantly threatened Shlomo's reign. Yoav, very charismatic person who was already the master puppeteer behind two rebellions. The Absalom one, he was, okay, I'm sort of like skipping a topic, rewind. He was already in the background as a puppeteer, basically undermining David's reign. The Absalom rebellion, he played a role in undermining David's power, right, by completely ignoring David's orders, as well as here, according to our sages, he was the mastermind behind Adoniyahu's whole rebellion. And so basically, David is saying to Shlomo, as long as Yoav is alive, he's very charismatic, very popular, and you cannot sit securely until he is out of the picture. Second of all, Shimi ben Gera was from the tribe of Benjamin, that when Avshalom was leading the rebellion against David, he supported Avshalom, or it's not clear if he supported, but at least he was against David because he comes out of his house and he curses David. Like, he basically belittles him and destroys his morale. So what's Shimi's story? What does he get out of this? So he's from the tribe of Benjamin, which is his claim to fame. By the way, just as an aside, if you look up Mordechai's Yichus, when we first meet him in chapter 2 of Megillat Esther, he's mentioned, right? Mordechai ben, look it up in chapter 2, I think like verse 4 or something. Anyway, so one of the ancestors mentioned, right, is Shimi. Yes, that same Shimi according to our sages. So Shimi's from Benjamin. Why do we care about this? Because he's a Benjaminite that is still longing for the King Saul glory days. He has not reconciled. Right, very good, Dvorah. Right, exactly. So basically, he says the initial king was King Saul, and so is Yair the same as Gera? No, I don't think so. There's a whole machlokus whether the three generations mentioned from Mordechai are three literal generations. There is such an opinion. It's like father, son, or sorry, father, grandfather, great-grandfather. But another opinion that our sages say, no, what do you mean? There's 600 years between those generations. There's like 200 years between one, and that they're just name-dropping significant figures in Tanakh that we would relate to, like Kish. We know who Kish is, right? Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimi ben Kish ish Yemini. And so Kish, Saul's father. So, but he lived like 700 years before Mordechai. But our sages say, no, there's a reason why that name is getting name dropped. So anyway, just as an aside, so Shimi says, I'm a stickler and a believer that the initial king was the ideal king. We want the glory to return to Benjamin. Benjamin needs to rule. And we don't accept this Davidic dynasty. We don't accept this Judaic dynasty. Like we don't want, Mamlechet Yehuda. We want Benjamin to rule over all 12 tribes. So he's always vying and leading this campaign saying, let's anoint somebody from the tribe of Benjamin, whether it's one of Saul's offsprings or whatever. And so basically David is telling him, I know what he's scheming here. As long as Shimi is alive, and again, Shimi is another powerful person politically, financially, like socially in Jewish people. And so basically he's got clout. So David's saying, as long as he is alive, he will always be undermining your power. Do not leave him alive. So then why doesn't David kill him, or why doesn't Shlomo just go straight, kill him? Finished. You want to secure your power. You are the king. You have that power. Why not? Why do it in a roundabout fashion? So basically, there's two primary reasons why that is. One, this is David's legacy. The truly remarkable thing about King David as a king is that he was completely different than all other kings, a different strategy, different everything. In that we know, and this is true globally, universally, you look at any culture, whether it was pharaohs in Egypt or Babylonian kings, or heck, you'll go into Korean history, it doesn't matter. France, pick a nation, pick a dynasty. This was a norm that as soon as a new dynasty arose, they executed the previous dynasty's relatives. Again, anyone that could have, any claims to the throne. And so basically, David refused to do that. David is the concept of malchut, which literally means kingship, but according to Hasidus and Kabbalah, it is a sphera, it is an energy, it is a power, it is its own entity that basically is reception of power, meaning netzach is dominant, it is when I seize power. Malchus is when I receive my power from the desire of the nation. And so David, we see this, that after King Saul and all of his sons get killed in the plains of Emek Yisrael, in the war against the Philistines at the end of Samuel 1. And basically, David could easily step up, seize the throne, rule over all 12 tribes. He refuses. He goes off to Hebron, and he rules over one tribe, and he lets Saul's son, Ishbosheth, seize the throne, rule over 10 tribes by himself, placidly, for 2 whole years, until there's inner squabbling in the Benjaminite camp. And then he's assassinated, and there's like a whole political thing. And the interesting thing, even after Ishbosheth is assassinated, David still sits quietly in Hebron, ruling over one tribe, over Yehuda only. And the question is why? What are you waiting for? And the answer comes along in the beginning of Shmuel Bet, where the answer is that he's waiting for the tribes to come to him and ask him to reign over them. Exactly what happens is that after 5 years of a vacuum where there's anarchy, basically, David is ruling over Yehuda. Nobody's really stepping up to plate to rule over the other 10 tribes. Each tribe sends an elder or a team of elders. They come to Hebron, they come to David and they say, please rule over us. We want you, right? This is what we call Itoruta Delatata, awakening from below. That the nation wants the king. This is the flawless Malchus. This is Malchus, where the king receives his power from the desire of the people, saying, please rule over us. And then, in the 7th year after Saul's death, then David says, oh, you want me? You got it. I will rule over you. And then he rules over all 12 tribes. There's a whole ceremony where they unite all the tribes and they coronate him. And he reigns over the 12 tribes for 33 years. And then Solomon inherits the 12 tribes. So on the one hand, this is a legacy that David is passing on to Shlomo, saying, you are Malchus. Our way is Malchus. We're not Netzach. We're not Gvor. We're not Chesed. We don't take power. We receive power. This is our facet. And so you have to receive your power. So it's true, you have to be savvy. You have to be smart. You can't be a sucker. You can't let Shimei and Yoav mess you up. But to go ahead and seize power, no. But there's also another angle. That's a very, very technical, practical angle. Does anyone know why David himself could not build the temple? What does Hashem say to him through Nathan the prophet? David, it literally articulates a desire in Shmuel Bet, saying, Hashem, please, how can I sit in a palace when you sit in a field, in a tent? It's so not appropriate. It's gross. Please let me build you a fitting palace. What does Hashem answer? No, David, you are not the shaliach. You cannot. Yes, Stephanie. Ah, very good. Stephanie said because he had blood in his hands, as it says in Sefer Divrei Yamim Aleph, in Perek Chafet, chapter 22. No, I don't remember the pasuk. Sorry, but in chapter 22, Nathan the prophet is sent to David, saying, "You cannot because you have blood in your hands." Now, what does that mean? Very simple. It just means you went off to war, you fought battles, you have shed human blood. Now, that's not an accusation. That's not saying you're a bad person. It's not a reference necessarily to innocent blood that he spilled, like Uriah, Bathsheba's husband. It's saying that you're a man of war, and a man of war cannot build the temple. That's another angle, by the way, that clues us in about what's going on with Yoav and Adoniyahu. When they want to save their life from being, like their blood from being spilled, where do they run? To the altar. Because they understand that everything that's associated with Hashem is exactly the opposite of human blood being spilled. Animal blood, that's one thing. But human blood cannot be spilled anywhere near or associated with the temple, the altar, anything that is Hashem's domain. There cannot be human bloodshed there. So even though David is a tzaddik and he fought milchamot mitzvah, he wasn't trigger happy. He fought wars that were a mitzvah, right? For the protection of the Jewish people when they were attacked by the Philistines. Avi, why is Shmuley here? Cue evil cackle by 8-year-old as of right now. He just turned 8 this second. God bless you, Shmu. May you make it to 9. Okay. Anyway. So, my stream of thought was going so well. 1 second. Thank you, Sarla. Thank you. I will tell Shmuley. So, basically, with David, he's fighting Milchamot Mitzvah, Pikuach Nefesh, protecting the Jewish people. And yet, thank you, Sabir, the spilling of the blood just technically is something that is antithetical, that is mutually exclusive to someone who is associated in any way with building the Beis HaMikdash. So now, obviously, David has to say to Shlomo, you cannot execute people. You cannot just go ahead and kill people directly, because if you spill blood, you've just delayed the construction of the Beis HaMikdash for another generation. Because Hashem said, David, sit tight. The son that will be your direct descendant, he will be a man of peace, right? That's why, what is Shlomo's name? Shlomo, the root, shalom, right? It's not just shleimut, wholeness, completion, but also peace. David names him Shalom, Shlomo, saying, oh, you're not going to have to fight any wars, you're not going to spill any blood. I'm doing that so that you can just go and build the Beis HaMikdash. If Shlomo goes start executing people, that's it. We've delayed the construction of the temple for another generation. So those are the 2 reasons why David has to give him such a convoluted will, saying, be smart. Don't leave your enemies secure. On the other hand, be smart about it. Okay, so that was the wrap up, and it's also setting the stage for us really, really well on this week's topic as well. I'm going to try something. Please give me feedback. Let me know if this works. You guys sent in your questions, and I said that a lot of them overlap. The 2 major, or whatever, there's a bunch of major questions. I'm going to split the chapter up very naturally into 2 topics, right? There's the one with the dream in Giv'on. Actually, before that, there's the marriage to the daughter of Pharoah. Everybody was disturbed by that, so we're going to go into that. The dream in Giv'on, and then the 3rd topic is, of course, the story of the 2 prostitutes. Okay, 1. So all of you wanted to know, what is up with Pharaoh's daughter? Like, really, they couldn't find like a nice Jewish girl, you know, some like Tzaddik's daughter or like a Rosh Yeshiva's daughter. I don't know. Like, they couldn't find like a fitting Jewish shidduch. They had to go all the way to Egypt just to get a shidduch for Shlomo. So we're going to break it down according to pardes, okay? So hold on, where is my tape? Okay, so the Malbim says that, right, Leah, exactly, the Malbim says, very, very simple, but the Malbim gives a pshat answer, right? Because, for example, Drush and Remez and So don't necessarily go in that direction. Basically, according to pshat, we can explain it very pragmatically. Set up an alliance with the superpower just to secure your reign even further. You off your enemies, right? You do whatever it takes to secure reign. And another thing that really, really helps is simply having a total flawless alliance with the superpower in the Middle East. Perfect. So that's on one level, according to pshat. Very, very simply. There we go. Okay. Okay, who can see the question? You guys see it? Yes, up here, you see it clearly? Awesome. What about the answer in pshat? What about the answer in pshat?
Mm-hmm.
It says political lines clearly? There's no glare, there's no nothing?
It's a little blurry, but I can see it and read it.
Okay, cool, great. Okay, according to Drush, okay, we spoke last time that often the sages, why does it say that it's ending in 10 minutes? They always give us the 10 minutes. What the heck? All right, Chevra, if we get knocked off, we'll just, I guess, re-log in. This is strange because they always like automatically give us the extra 40 minutes. Okay, so basically, the sages, we spoke this last time, that whenever a character is really, really pretty much flawless in the pshat, then our sages go and they find a criticism, something, you know, that seems to be really far-fetched on a certain level. Like, what the heck, are they making this up? Why are they looking for problems? Like, Yosef Atzadik, great example. In the pshat, he's perfect. He's just this sweet goody two-shoes, like, what? And the things that the sages of the Mishnah, like, find that are problematic with him, it's just like, what is this based on? Is this creative license? What the heck? So no, obviously it's not creative license and they're not making it up, but that's a separate discussion. So here too, our sages kind of throw a curveball at us and they say, oh, you know what? It's actually a bad thing that he married the daughter of Pharoh. And that because of this, he actually delayed the construction of the temple, and it's a horrible thing. And there's a whole bunch of midrashim talking about that it was actually a negative thing that delayed the temple by the building of the temple by at least 4 years, because he, like, for whatever reason, wanted to marry her. We don't know why. It says that as long as Shimi Ben Gera, yes, that same person who's the bad guy, he was his teacher because he was a very, very Talmid Chacham. And he said as long as his teacher was alive, he wouldn't dare marry Bat Paro. He waited for him to kick the bucket. And after he died, he's like, okay, phew, now I can marry the woman of my dreams. So that's like, where are the sages even getting that from? That's so weird. We'll get to that in a second. They're not making it up. But either way, they see this entire Inyan, yeah, Dina, it is weird, as just a springboard, as a hyperlink to all the things that Shlomo did wrong, even if it's not apparent in the pshat. And one sec. You guys also asked, did he convert her? Rambam asked the same question. All the sages asked that question. And I think it's the Abarbanel or the Rambam. I don't remember who it is. One of them says something really, really beautiful. They do a very good pshat close reading, where they say, people, read the stories carefully. Note how carefully the text is so careful to say, and Shlomo, loved God, and he was so meticulous in the mitzvot like David's father. And it goes through. So they say, do you think it's possible that he just married a Gentile? It just doesn't work. It doesn't flow, right? We defined pshat as the organic flow. Sarah Plutkin, yes, according to the Medrash, Shimi ben Gera was Shlomo's teacher. This is actually a theme that we see running through Chazal, where I've seen so many midrashim like this, where there's an adversary of a biblical character, and Chazal always, for some reason, think that this is this person's teacher. With David HaMelech, there's so many examples. Someone that was a thorn in David's side, oh, by the way, he was his teacher, he was his chavrusa, he was his rebbe. What are they talking about? So I'm going to look into that, but that seems to be a theme among the sages. Backing up. So basically, what was I saying? Help, Sapir, somebody, right before Sarah posted the thing.
You were saying he wouldn't marry a Gentile because he walks in God's statute?
Right. If we define pshat as flow, and we are name dropped, or like all these details are dropped, scattered throughout the 3 chapters about how righteous Shlomo is, how does it fit that he just marries a Gentile? So Rambam says, of course he converted her. It doesn't even need to be said. Like, it's obvious. And he gives other examples. It's the same with Shimshon, right, in the book of Judges, Sefer Shoftim. He also converted Lila before he married her, etc. So Rambam in Hilchot Isurei Biyah goes into detail showing, what do you mean, of course Shlomo converted her? So yes, that's the assumption. In fact, I read an academic pshat article that spoke about how proof from the pshat that it just makes sense that he did, because there are certain tehillims that Shlomo wrote, and one of them actually talks about, oh, foreign daughter, forget the legacy of your fathers. And this author was suggesting that maybe Shlomo wrote it for Bat Paro. That when he converted her, that, he was saying, forget that culture. You're now a Jew, like try to assimilate in a good sense, right? Into the new culture. Okay, so we have another head-on collision between Pshat and Drash. On the one hand, it seems to be a very celebratory thing, Vayitchaten Shlomo, it's a great thing, it's a very positive thing for the Jewish people, and yet Chazal say, nope, horrible thing. Okay, so we had defined remez as structural allusions, and we spoke last time about, in the second class, about the concept of flag words, or in Hebrew, milah mancha, right? Words that, like, the root appears through, like, peppered throughout the text or the story, in order that to sort of be like a theme, that we should connect. So we said that in chapter 1, the root yada, yud daled ayin, was the milah mancha, the root that each time it's like hearkening us to, there's something about knowledge, about yediyah, but not knowledge in the knowing sense only, right? David did not know Avishag, he did not know what was going on with Adoniyahu. Lo yada, we've said that it's just peppered through to show that this is the main theme of the story. Anyone know what the milah mancha is of chapter 3? There's a root that appears in different contexts, and they're actually juxtaposing context. So while you guys think, I'm going to hang up the little answer in the slide. Anyone know? There's one root that appears.
Is it shafat?
Where do you have it in the beginning of the chapter?
Oh, you don't. It comes a little later. So
I mean,
maybe not.
Shlomo talks about it during the dream, but I'm saying from the very beginning of chapter 3, there's a root that appears and weaves its way through.
There's a lot of talking about like sacrifices and how they couldn't, they didn't have like a official place.
Nope, not sacrifice. Good try though.
Is it bayit?
Is it what?
Bayit, like a house?
Close, but no cigar. You guys see it?
Livna, livnot. To build.
No. I put it up on the board under Remez.
Oh, aha.
Oh, Sarshal can tell us that it's blurry. Okay. So I'm going to write it in marker. Hold on.
Is it ahav, love?
Yeah. Okay. What are the two very, very contrasting things that are described as being beloved by Shlomo? Anyone?
Well, one of them is like God. It says he loves
Yes.
walking in the ways of God.
Excellent. Exactly, Dvorah. One is Vayehavet Hashem. Exactly. He loves God. Excellent. But then there's a foil to that. And this is what our sages are latching onto when they're reading all of this criticism within the text. They're not making stuff up in their midrashim. What is the other thing that he loves? Stephanie, good try. I don't think it says he loves the nation. No, Sonia, where does it say he loves his father? No guessing, just look it up in the text if you guys need to. Just pull out a Tanakh. Hold on, where's my Tanakh? I'll just here.
Are you saying it's in this chapter?
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, some of you guys know I love pulling trick questions. This is definitely not one of them.
I mean, it doesn't use the word